Those of you who know me know all about my deep love for animals, and nothing gives me more joy than seeing a fellow citizen going all out to rescue one. My next story will highlight the stunning rescue undertaken by a veterinarian near Mangaluru in Karnataka. Dr. Meghana Pemmaiah, that's the lady you see inside that cage. She led a 2-hour daredevil mission to rescue a terrified trapped leopard that had been stuck in a 25-foot deep well, as you can see in these images. Armed with a gun, darts and other equipment, Dr. Meghana sat inside that cage that was lowered into the well. She then carefully sedated the leopard that was stuck for nearly 36 hours, pulled the animal into the same cage as she was sitting in and brought it up carefully to safety. The dramatic 2-hour rescue operation took place near a house in Niddodi of Katil, about 35 kilometers from the city of Mangaluru. These are images that have gone viral in the media, not just here in India, but all across the world, with Dr. Meghana being applauded for her bravery, for her courage and her empathy for the terrified, trapped beast that had been in there for over 36 hours. And it's my honor and privilege to tell you that Dr. Meghana Pemmaiah joins me live from Mangaluru this afternoon. Dr. Meghana, so nice to see you here on India Today. I know you know that those images of your rescue of that beautiful creature are being appreciated and admired everywhere. I personally, salute you for the work that you've done. It's one leopard, but it's one life saved. I want you to tell us about how it all worked out. When did you hear about this leopard? How did you think about doing this whole thing, and how did it happen?
First of all, thank you so much for that. I mean, it means a lot to me and my team that we are appreciated so much for the work that we've done. So actually, we got a call from the Prithvi Forest Department on Sunday around 9:30 a.m. And Dr. Yashaswi Naravi, actually, he's been in this field of rescuing wildlife around Mangalore for the past 6 to 7 years. So he assembled our team, and we head to the spot. And once we went there, we already realized that the forest department had already done, already gotten all the gun, the darting equipment, everything ready. The cages were ready, and they'd also done quite a bit of crowd control. So they had made it quite easy for us. So once we reached the spot, all that we had to do was assess the situation, what could be done, planned everything. So when we looked down into the well, all we could see was like an empty well, nothing other than, the mud at the bottom of the well. So then we were like, we weren't even sure, like, how big the leopard was, or, if it is injured. We had no idea about it. So then we decided, like, the only other option for us to get the animal out safely would be, if one of us went into that cage and then, darted the animal. So we were 4 vets actually, Dr. Prithvi, Dr. Nafisa, Dr. Yashaswi Naravi and me. So it was just a thing that, all of us were ready to go into the cage. But I volunteered to get in first, so it was like an okay thing. The whole time, it was, that little fear was there, but at that point I was only thinking about, just going down, finishing the rescue operation as smoothly as possible and get the leopard back to safety.
Yeah.
So, and the locals in the forest department were extremely supportive. So once we decided this was the plan, took quite a few test shots with the gun to check if everything was working fine. Then took all the medicines, and then I went into the cage. Then the locals in the forest department very carefully put me, down to the bottom.
I wanted to ask you, Dr. Meghana, how did it feel to be inside that cage? I'm very curious to know how you felt being inside that cage.
Like I said, initially that little bit of fear was there. So many things running in my head. Like, there are so many things that can go wrong in this operation. Like, the cage, if it is not lowered properly, if it's, there's an imbalance. So many things could have gone wrong if the animal had attacked the cage. But then it was at that point, all these things seemed a little less worrisome for me than just getting the animal back to safety. Because I knew the longer it was down in the well, there are more chances of it getting, dehydrated or more aggressive, and it would be very difficult for us later on. So it was.
Once you reached the bottom of the well, Dr. Meghana, once you reached the bottom of the well, what happened and how did you feel? Did you instantly spot the leopard when you got down there?
Yes, the moment I was even towards even before they had landed me on the ground, I could see the leopard, and I knew and she was sitting in a perfect position for me to dart. So I knew I had this just one chance, because if I had missed this chance, I knew she would just then move about, and then it would be very difficult for me to manipulate the gun in that small cage. So I then immediately assessed the anesthesia, how much to be given, everything, loaded the gun, and took that shot. And lucky enough, it was the perfect shot. And within the next 15 minutes, the animal was sedated. Then a local just got down because the animal was too heavy for me alone to be dragged into the
cage.
Cage. So then they helped me in, and after that we were both brought back to the
So correct me if I'm wrong, the cage was dragged up with you and the leopard inside the cage?
Yes.
Okay, so you were in the cage with that leopard?
Yeah, but the leopard was sedated and I made sure it was completely anesthetized. That's why I took that chance of getting the leopard with me into the cage, and then we got it up here.
Yeah. No, so what happened once you, I'm really trying to put myself in your shoes here, Dr. Meghana, because as the cage was being hoisted back up, you had this leopard with you, and you're a vet, you know what tranquilizer darts can do, and I'm sure you know the effectiveness of them. But was there something in your mind wondering if this animal could somehow wake up, for any reason, maybe the tranquilizer dart was, ineffective or something? Did that go through your mind?
That it was there at the back of my head, but I was making sure, trying very hard to not think a lot about that. I was at that point, it was just okay, the leopard is here. It will just get me back to the top. We'll just assess the, the health condition of the leopard, and then I'm done.
Absolutely. No, so once you brought the animal up, then what happened? In what condition was the animal, and how is that leopard doing now?
So the leopard was luckily. No injuries at all, even though it had fallen from a height, no fractures, and slight dehydration, yes, but other than that, the leopard was quite healthy. So we gave the necessary medication, and then even the reversal, because, just to make sure she just regains her consciousness faster. We did all that, and after that we had the forest department of Mulbidri, they took over, and they decided to release it back into the wild.
You're a vet, Dr. Meghana, and obviously you feel a connection with animals. Your life is your career and your profession is literally about saving the lives of animals. Do you feel a personal connection with each beast? Did you feel some kind of a personal connection with this poor, trapped, terrified little leopard in that well? Because you spent a lot of time saving it.
So, I'm going to speak for all veterinarians and not just me. We all feel, even a little bit of connection that is always there for every animal that we, try to save. People may think that we may not have that, compassion, but no, every animal we try 100%, put in all our efforts. And sometimes it's, even though there are risks involved, also, put that aside and try our best to save the animals. And in this case also it was the same. Our entire team was we have to make sure we get that leopard out as fast as possible, and because we didn't know if she was injured or not. I mean, only later when we checked her we found out that she was not injured, but at beginning of the rescue none of us had any idea, so we had to make sure she was okay. So I think anyone in my place also, any veterinarian, I'm sure would have done the same thing that I did.
I'm sure, but you are the person who went down here and now everyone's talking about you. Last few questions, Dr. Meghana. Where is this leopard now? How is it doing right now? Will it be released back into the wild soon? She's already released back into the wild. Yes, that's the information we got from the forest department. Yes. And it's whenever one reads the news about leopards, it's always about, a leopard having attacked someone. Recently, there were some, some injuries that people sustained. And, you're the kind of person who knows deep down inside, and so do I, that this is about, human encroachment on the habitats of these creatures. It's not the other way around. These leopards have not come into our spaces. We've gone into their spaces, and that's the reason why this is happening. Do you get a lot of calls? Do you get a lot of information about this kind of thing happening? And animals trapped in human habitations needing rescue like this?
Definitely, there are a lot of animals that get into this urban settlement because firstly they come in search of food. Secondly, there's habitat destruction, so they can't go back into the the thing that they used to see as home. Now because the forests are so fragmented. Now it's a bit of a question mark for them if there is prey or not. And it's not just leopards. So even snakes, we see a lot of snakes entering the house and all, and it's very sad. So because they just come in search of food and shelter from the sun, because their natural habitat is being lost. But again, it's a moral dilemma, because when a human life is also involved, we need to be very careful about what we do.
Yeah.
So, I would actually tell that if somebody sees a wildlife, that is in need to be rescued, like it has come into the human settlement, and you're scared about it, don't try to harm the animal. Immediately, if you can report to the forest department or wildlife rescuers, they will make sure, they will ensure your safety also and the safety of the animal, and that's what we all want. Live.
I'm very glad you said that, because I was actually going to ask that question. I wanted you to put out a message here as someone who's in the spotlight right now to people out there, especially young people, because I want to catch Indians young, to educate them as much as possible about animals, and to instill a sense of empathy about animals, because at the end of the day, none of these animals are out to harm us. Usually these attacks happen when we come in their way, when they feel threatened, when they feel vulnerable. That's when the attacks usually happen. But you're in coastal Karnataka near Mangaluru. That's a place where I come from as well, incidentally, Meghna, but that's just a side piece of information. So I know how beautiful it is. I know how green it is. It's full of wonderful beasts and birds. Has this been the most interesting animal encounter you've ever had? I mean, as a vet, I can imagine you've had contact with all manner of critters. Tell us some of the more fun things that you've done.
Honestly, I don't know. I treat each animal as a special every rescue that we get, even if it's a small myna or a sunbird, or even if it's a leopard. For me, they're all like, a very exciting thing to deal with. So I wouldn't say if I have any favorites to pick from, but but they're all interesting, and especially if we have to rehabilitate them. So they take a lot of, a thought process, and it's challenging, but it's really satisfying at the end when you, finally release them back into the wild. Like if a bird we've, found somewhere and hand raise them, enough to, rehabilitate them in such a way that we can release them back into the wild. So when we release them, the sense of happiness that we feel, it's just really amazing. So I don't have a favorite, but every animal that I've dealt with,
I hear
me, this kind of happiness when I've seen them go back to the wild.
I can imagine, and I'm sure that leopard, wherever she is right now, is thanking you deep inside. She was asleep when she was rescued by you, Meghna, but obviously, somewhere she must have seen you while you were descending in that cage like an angel from heaven, quite literally in this sense, and rescuing her, and she woke up to find out that she was, safe and sound outside that well, and, on her way back to safety. Final question to you, Dr. Meghna, your quick message to budding veterinarians out there. There may be people who may be considering it. We do know that most people go for, human medical science. Your message to young people out there thinking about a career in this wonderful thing that you do.
So, I think each profession has its own ups and downs, but for people who want to do veterinarians, I would really, if you have the compassion and the passion to do it, please go ahead with it. Don't think about, there are risks involved or not, because the moment you realize you've saved an animal, the amount of happiness it gives you, I don't think anything else can. So please, if it is something that you all want to do passionately, just go ahead.
Dr. Meghana Pemmaiah, it's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers very much value this conversation. I salute you. I salute your courage. I salute the empathy you've shown in rescuing a beautiful creature in this country. Thank you so much for joining me here on India Today. Thank you.
Thanks.